I want to talk about this election. And do we have a code of ethics or a code of conduct for the candidates? I want to fill you in on an incident that have happened to me here in the last couple of weeks. These signs that are out there, Smart, Rocky, Hafner. I don't know about Smart or Rocky, but other than to say that they should have looked at Dave Hafner a little bit closer. I have encountered him twice in the past several weeks. Once in my front yard, as he tried to convince me to vote for him, and again, when he put signs up in my yard without permission and required me to call 911 for fear of my safety and that of my 10-year-old grandson. On the first occasion in my front yard, when I questioned the statements he was making about the smoke task force and about my neighbor wanting to set up a sweatshop and having these loud parties with 100 cars on their property, which I knew wasn't true. I've lived there for 11 years, and in that time there's never been any parties, or there's been no sweatshops, there's no traffic coming in and out of there. Each time I disagreed with him, he raised his voice until he was screaming out his philosophy at me. I asked him 3 times to quit yelling and was told that I had to vote for him because he was my neighbor and only he could save me. On the second occasion, when returning home, I found his signs on my property, just a few feet from my driveway. I took it down and threw it away. Later that same day, at about 9:30 p.m., in the dark, when returning home with my grandson, Mr. Hafner was putting a sign up in my neighbor's yard near my property line. When I told him I objected to his putting signage in my yard earlier without permission, he demanded his signs back and called me a thief. My reply was, he obviously knew where he had put the signage and that it was mine now. At that point, he went crazy, yelling, screaming, swearing, calling me a liar, a thief, calling me out of the car to fight, that I was a chicken not to get out. He chased the car down the street, swinging his fist and finger at us, and at this point I stopped and I called 911. He continued to rant and rave as I asked 911 for help. This ranting and raving continued even after I drove into my driveway and finished my call to the 911 dispatcher. At this point, Mr. Hafner got into his truck and left before the police arrived. This is not the type of person that we need here in the council, to sit up here. You know, who if they don't get their way, they shout and try to intimidate you. What I want to know is, do we have a code of conduct or ethics for our candidates?
That's a good question. We do have our ordinance with regard to signage and for political signs, and one of the requirements is that it has to be with the permission of the property owner. And I would like to think that that certainly would be honored and respected, and that is an ordinance, and so it's the law.
Does that cover his conduct?
The sign code does not cover conduct, but that probably, is governed by other laws.
Well,
But I
hope people think
apologize
twice
that-
before they, smartly put him up here.